what I want to do is, you know, as we think about how these briskets are going to be used, after we cook them, we want to, you know, anytime you do meat or cut meat, one of the rules of meat cutting is you always cut across the grain to make something more tender. To do that, as you can see, the grain on this muscle within the brisket runs this direction. You can see those long muscle fibers. They come all the way down. And so we want to cut across the grain, and it would be nice if every muscle in the brisket, the fibers ran the same direction, but they don't. The deep pectoral muscle, the fibers run this direction. The superficial pectoral muscle, the fibers run a different direction. So we're going to trim this one and sacrifice this brisket so that you get an opportunity to see how those muscle fibers run, how those two muscles run together, because those are the two major muscles in a brisket. And we're going to take these two muscles apart so you can see those individually. But here we have the muscle, the deep pectoral muscle, that for the most part everybody calls the flat portion of the brisket flat. You see the fibers running this direction. And if we were to start cutting this, like we said, across the grain, we would be cutting slices this direction. However, we're going to get to here, and all of a sudden the muscle fibers change with a superficial pectoral going this direction. So all of a sudden we have some of the portions of the slice this direction, some of the portion of the slice with the fibers running opposite or almost opposite from where we're at a 90-degree angle. So we want to look at those two muscles and kind of see how we might be able to do that, the slicing, but understanding the way they fit together will help you do the best job you can at slicing against the grain. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and remove, or I'll separate the two muscles so that you can look at them. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to just separate the seam between these two muscles. If this was hot, these would almost fall apart if we've got the temperature up to 190 degrees or really close. But since this is still a raw brisket, they'll be a little more cohesive there between the two muscles. Here I have the brisket point and the brisket flat. As you see, the muscle fibers are a bit different in there. These are fairly tight and compact. These have a lot of areas of seam fat still in between the muscles, but these muscle fibers are really large. And so both of these, we have to worry about connective tissue, heavy amounts of connective tissue around the muscle fibers and the muscle bundles. So we start to look at these. So cutting across the grain best we can on both of these makes a lot of sense. So separating those a lot of times will be the best way to cut them, although there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different opinions on how best to cut a brisket for yield versus how to cut a brisket for maximum eating quality, those kind of things as well. A lot of people also, if you go to a brisket restaurant or something, they'll ask you if you want the lean portion or the moister portion. Well, you can see by just how much fat is still in between these muscle fibers why this would be the fattier, juicier part of the brisket. This would be a portion that would be very lean. However, when you're cooking, if we take all the fat off and then try to cook this, the muscle really has no protection against the heat during that long period of time that we're trying to cook those. So leaving that thin layer of fat on there is important.